Right. So, you know how we love to really dig into those stories you send our way? Well, this one, you know this blog post about a trip to the Dominican Republic, specifically Sosua. It's making me rethink my whole travel strategy.
Really?
Because the way this vacation kind of unfolded, it's not your average beach trip. Let's just say that. And to help us really kind of break down like all the different cultural and economic layers of what went down here, we have our expert here.
Well, hey there. Sometimes the best stories, are those ones you don't plan.
Absolutely. So our blogger, she starts by painting this picture of these two towns, Sosua and Cabarete. Cabarete is like total surfer paradise, like laid back, clean, everyone's friendly. But then she doesn't really say much about Sosua directly.
Okay.
We only get a feel for it through this interesting experience she has at a bar.
Oh, I see. The accidental discovery.
Yes.
Sounds like the author and her friends were just trying to, escape the heat, grab a quick drink. And they wandered into a place that wasn't quite what they were expecting.
Right, and especially when she starts talking about like people there.
Oh, yeah.
She mentions mainly young Dominican women, and I'm going to quote this directly here. Beer-bellied, ponytail-wearing over 40 American tourists.
Okay, that's a vivid image.
Yeah. So that's the scene. And then on top of that, she mentions this $30 fee for the entire night. And something about that price just seems off. What could be the reason for that?
Well, that definitely raises some questions.
Yeah.
You could suggest a few things. And it's important to remember, we're dealing with a complex industry here.
Yeah.
In a lot of tourist destinations. Economic realities can incentivize, certain types of businesses to thrive.
Okay, so you're saying like the $30 fee, the clientele.
Yeah.
This could be a sign of what's referred to as sex tourism.
It's certainly a possibility. And it leads to some important questions about why this type of tourism exists.
Right.
Like we could look at something called dependency theory, which, in simple terms, suggests that some countries' economies become reliant on more developed nations. Sometimes that creates situations where industries like sex tourism can kind of emerge.
So there's a much deeper economic reality underlying what our blogger stumbled into here.
Exactly. It's more than just a funny anecdote about a bar with a strange price.
Right. And I think this is where it gets really important to consider the context of the situation.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to the topic of sex tourism. It's not something we can shy away from, especially with what the blogger is describing.
Yeah. The term sex tourism is often used to describe travel, specifically motivated by the pursuit of commercial sexual activity. And often this is in destinations where the industry is more visible or accessible.
Okay.
So to understand situations like the one our blogger is describing, we have to look at the economic factors at play.
Okay, so getting back to the blog post itself, she does not shy away from how awkward things got. Once they realized they were in a working girls bar, she even tries to get out of the situation by using her broken Spanish to invent these family relationships.
Oh, that's a creative approach.
Right. Like she claims her friend is her brother.
Okay.
Then that she and her other friend are engaged.
Oh my gosh.
It's almost comical how she keeps throwing out these family ties. And the worker is completely unfazed.
I can only imagine the cultural disconnect in that moment.
Right. But then here's what I found fascinating and maybe even a little unexpected.
Okay.
The blogger actually ends up having a real conversation with some of the workers and gets local tips.
Oh, wow.
About beaches and like hidden spots to visit.
That's what I love about travel stories like this.
Yeah.
Even in like seemingly uncomfortable or, unconventional situations,
right,
there's always that potential for connection and cross-cultural exchange.
Totally. And it makes me wonder about those travel guides that try to steer you away from certain places. Maybe sometimes those detours are where the real learning happens.
That's a really interesting question. It's a classic travel dilemma.
Yeah.
Do you stick to the well-trodden path? Or venture into the unknown.
Right.
Even if it might lead you somewhere unexpected.
Exactly. So we've got this unexpected encounter, a deeper dive into the world of sex tourism. And now a question about whether sometimes getting lost is the best way to find yourself.
Right.
Where do we go from here?
Well, the blogger's experience, it really highlights this idea that, travel isn't just about like ticking off landmarks or sticking to some carefully curated itinerary.
Right.
It's about encountering different realities, understanding diverse perspectives, and sometimes even questioning our own preconceived notions.
I think a lot of us travel with this idea of escaping reality, but sometimes reality has a way of finding you, even in the most unexpected places.
And that brings us back to this concept of, the unexpected.
Right.
Which seems to be a theme in this blog post.
It definitely is. And it makes me think about how much we try to plan every detail of our trips. But maybe there's something to be said for embracing the unknown, even if it leads us to places we didn't plan to go.
It's a delicate balance, though.
Yeah.
On one hand, there's that thrill of, venturing off the beaten path.
Right.
Discovering those hidden gems.
Yeah.
Having those serendipitous encounters.
Yeah.
But then there's the need to be responsible.
Right.
To be aware of the potential consequences of our choices.
Especially when traveling to destinations with, these complex social and economic dynamics.
Exactly.
And that's where the blogger's experience gets really interesting, because she talks about meeting this guy named Will, who had moved to Cabarete from the UK.
Okay.
And he basically says, you should have asked a local for recommendations.
So Will's perspective adds another layer to this whole discussion.
Yes.
He's suggesting that local knowledge can be really invaluable.
Right.
Not just for finding, the best restaurants or hidden beaches.
Yeah.
But also for navigating these potentially sensitive situations.
It's like he's advocating for a more informed approach to exploration. Like maybe he wouldn't discourage someone from going to Sosua, but he'd probably say, do your research. Right. Be aware of the realities on the ground.
Exactly. And it raises the question of, do we as travelers have a responsibility to engage with the complexities of the places we visit?
Right.
Even if it means stepping outside of our comfort zones.
That's such a good point. It's not about shying away from certain experiences, but rather about approaching them with sensitivity, respect, and a willingness to learn.
I couldn't agree more. And it's something that the blogger herself seems to embrace.
Yeah.
Despite the initial awkwardness.
Right.
She chooses to engage with the women she meets, to learn from their perspectives, to see beyond stereotypes that might be associated with their profession.
And in doing so, she discovers a different side of Sosua, one that goes beyond the superficial.
Right.
She finds those hidden beaches, she connects with locals, and she ultimately comes away from the experience with this newfound appreciation for the unexpected.
It's a powerful reminder that travel at its best is about more than just, sightseeing or relaxation.
Yeah.
It's about extending our horizons, challenging our assumptions,
Right.
engaging with the world in all its complexity.
Totally. And sometimes those unexpected detours, even the ones that lead us to places we might not have initially chosen, can be the most transformative experiences of all.
They can force us to confront our biases,
Yeah.
to question our preconceived notions,
Right.
and ultimately to grow as individuals.
So what does this all mean for us as travelers, as people who are constantly, seeking new experiences and expanding our understanding of the world?
Right.
What's the takeaway here?
I think it's about finding that balance between curiosity and responsibility.
Yeah, okay.
It's being open to the unexpected while also being mindful of, the potential impact of our choices and actions.
It's about being informed travelers, aware of the complexities of the destinations we visit, and engaging with those complexities in a way that is both respectful and insightful.
Exactly.
Beautifully put. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to the blogger's reflection on the value of getting lost, making mistakes while traveling. She even encourages readers to consider exploring places that locals might not recommend.
That's interesting.
What do you make of that?
On the one hand, I understand the appeal of venturing off the beaten path,
Right.
embracing spontaneity. It can lead to those unique discoveries, have that sense of adventure. On the other hand, you have to be mindful of the potential risks
Right.
and approach unfamiliar situations with caution.
Especially in a context like this,
Exactly.
where there might be ethical considerations or safety concerns.
Right. It's about finding that balance between exploration and responsibility.
Yeah.